And now let's just make a total left-hand turn here. I do want to pick your
Okay.
brain a little bit about Venezuela. The State Department designated Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro as the head of a foreign terrorist organization. And this comes as the United States military has been expanding in the region now for a couple
Right.
of months. And since September, our military has struck multiple vessels in the Pacific and Caribbean, and that has killed at least 80 people. What do you make of all of this action?
So here, let me start. I'll boil it down to a kernel of fact here, and then we can broaden it out. I agree with the president's decision to designate uh, that organization as a terrorist organization, and Maduro certainly heads it. Um, but does it make any sense to you, or to people listening to this conversation, that if Donald Trump thinks that a cartel that Maduro heads warrants terrorism designation, and he believes that situation is so dire in Venezuela with drugs coming out of Venezuela that he is engaged in extrajudicial killings with no evidence or due process of people, you know, according to him, running drugs or running boats through the Caribbean Sea and the Pacific Ocean, and he's blowing them up with no due process. And he's moving our most significant military hardware alongside off the coast of Venezuela. Does it make any sense to you that he's taken away temporary protected status from 400,000 Venezuelans in the United States because they say conditions have improved? I mean, that is because he is talking out of both sides of his face. He cut a sweetheart deal with Maduro by letting him profit from oil sales, lifting sanctions in order for that to happen, so that he could deport more Venezuelans, which Maduro has agreed to because there's multiple flights a week. This Donald Trump does not, anyone that thinks that Donald Trump cares about democracy, which he hasn't even mentioned in Venezuela, should look at how little respect he has for democracy here in the United States.
I had a conversation with Senator Mark Warner. He is the top Democrat on the Senate Intel Committee. And honestly, I was left with more questions than answers after that conversation because he is left with more questions than answers. He told me he
Same.
couldn't confidently say that all of these strikes weren't about regime change. He couldn't confidently say that everyone who's been killed in these strikes is a narco terrorist or is somehow related to trafficking drugs. I mean, do you feel the same way? Do you have those questions that he has?
I do. I mean, first of all, Donald Trump keeps referencing Venezuela being a source of fentanyl, and that these boats he's targeting are supposedly targeting fentanyl, and fentanyl is coming out of Mexico. Uh, Not that I'm not concerned about people who running cocaine um, boats either, but and I certainly, by the way, would not be shedding tears if Maduro were gone. But at the end of the day, those votes being blown up are a distraction from the fact that Donald Trump is allowing Maduro to be propped up to stay in power because he's letting him profit from oil lease sales. He's lifted some sanctions, and he's doing that because he wants to get Maduro to take more and more deportations of otherwise law abiding people who fled Venezuela because of the danger there. And he's acknowledging that there's danger there because he's designated the cartel that Maduro heads as a terrorist organization.
And what do you think then? I mean, I asked Senator Warner straight up, is the United States going to war with Venezuela? And he couldn't confidently say no. That's what he told me. Do you think that because of this military buildup, because of what President Trump is saying, that the United States is headed to war with Venezuela?
It appears that they are preparing for that possibility. And I mean, if you look at how the American people feel, even people here in Florida, um, there is grave concern about the possibility of military action on the part of the United States in Venezuela. Regime change efforts have not gone well, particularly when in Latin America, when the United States has attempted that. Um, we need to make sure that there's a democratic transition in Venezuela. The rightful president of Venezuela is Edmundo Gonzalez. Maduro is illegally holding power there, and we need to ratchet up economic pressure, ratchet up sanctions, engage in diplomacy coupled with those sanctions, so that we cause him more economic pain and pressure, um, rather than bring a whole lot of our military might off the coast, extrajudicially kill people who we really don't know at the end of the day. I mean, really, are we going after catamarans here that are speeding across the oceans? This makes no sense. The thing that disturbs me the most is that Donald Trump, Brittany, has not even mentioned the importance of transitioning Venezuela to democracy. That is what's critically important. It's what Venezuelans voted for, and Maduro is illegally holding power. And we have tools at our disposal that we've abandoned so that Donald Trump can deport more Venezuelans back to a country that he says is too dangerous, and has designated its leader as the head of a terrorist organization.
And I do